Electricity can exist everywhere around a green hydrogen project and still be unreachable by it. This sounds counterintuitive, especially in a world saturated with renewable headlines, installed capacity charts, and megawatt announcements. But for hydrogen, electricity is not a commodity you simply buy and consume. It is a system you must physically pass through. And that system has limits, hierarchies, bottlenecks, and rules that do not care about your financial model. Most hydrogen developers encounter this problem only after they believe the hard part is done. The renewable resource has been secured. The land is under control. The electrolyzer vendor has been selected. On paper, the electrons exist. Wind is spinning. Solar is generating. Capacity factors look healthy. And yet, when the project attempts to connect, the grid responds with something far less intuitive. Waiting lists, upgrade requirements, curtailment clauses, and non-firm access conditions. Electricity exists, but hydrogen cannot touch it. This is the physical layer of failure that most green hydrogen narratives skip entirely. Electricity is not a pool you dip into. It moves through constrained corridors, substations, transformers, and protection systems that were never designed to support large, continuous, flexible industrial demand in the same places renewables were built. When hydrogen plants attempt to connect to these systems, they discover that availability is meaningless without deliverability. Grid interconnection is not approval to consume electricity freely. It is permission to participate under strict conditions. These conditions are shaped by thermal limits on transmission lines, voltage stability requirements, contingency planning, and reliability margins. Hydrogen electrolyzers by their nature look like massive, fast-responding loads. To a grid operator, they resemble stress tests, not customers. When the system tightens, hydrogen is not protected. It is exposed. This exposure shows up first in queues. Interconnection queues are not chronological lines. They are complex dependency graphs. A hydrogen project might sit behind dozens of renewable generators, storage assets, or industrial loads. Each one can trigger network upgrades. Until those upgrades are built, no one behind them gets firm access. Developers assume timelines measured in months. Reality often stretches into years. During that time, policy windows shift. Tax credits sunset, and capital markets change their appetite. The project does not fail loudly. It decays. Even when interconnection approval arrives, it rarely means full access. Many hydrogen projects receive non-firm or conditional service. This means electricity may be curtailed when congestion appears elsewhere on the grid. The plant can be forced offline not because power generation drops, but because transmission pathways saturate. The electrons are being produced, but they cannot be routed to you. The grid does not store congestion, it sheds load. This is where hydrogen economics begin to fracture. Electrolyzers are capital-intensive machines whose economics depend on hours of operation. Every lost hour pushes cost per kilogram upward. Curtailment is not a minor inconvenience. It is an economic multiplier in the wrong direction. A project modeled at 85% utilization that operates at 65% does not become slightly worse. It becomes structurally different. Contracts break. Debt coverage erodes. Equity returns vanish. What makes this especially dangerous is that curtailment is uneven. It does not distribute itself nicely across the year. It clusters. High renewable output periods often coincide with high congestion. That is precisely when hydrogen projects expect to run hardest. Instead, they are throttled. The paradox is brutal. The more renewable electricity exists in a region, the harder it may be for hydrogen to access it reliably. This leads to one of the most misunderstood failures in green hydrogen deployment. Developers chase regions with abundant renewables, assuming abundance equals opportunity. In reality, abundance often signals saturation. Transmission was built for yesterday's load patterns. New generation piles onto limited infrastructure. Hydrogen arrives last and discovers that there is nowhere for its electrons to flow. Behind the scenes, grid operators manage flows using locational pricing, congestion management tools, and reliability constraints that are invisible to most hydrogen project models. A megawatt at one node is not equivalent to a megawatt at another. Two projects separated by a few miles can experience completely different access conditions. Hydrogen developers who ignore nodal realities are not taking a calculated risk. They are guessing. Some attempt to solve this with co-location. Put the electrolyzer next to the wind farm, bypass the grid. This works in limited cases, but it introduces new fragilities. Co-located systems lose access to balancing services. They inherit the volatility of generation directly. Maintenance downtime compounds. Offtake becomes harder to guarantee. Co-location trades grid risk for operational risk. It does not eliminate risk, it reshapes it. Others attempt hybridization, add batteries, smooth congestion, capture curtailed energy. Batteries help at the margins, but they do not solve structural constraints. Storage shifts energy in time, not space. If the wire is full, it remains full. If the substation is constrained, electrons still stop there. Hydrogen needs pathways, not just buffers. This is why so many hydrogen projects quietly stall between announcement and execution. Public narratives focus on electrolyzer scale and renewable ambition. Private reality revolves around substations, transformers, and queue studies. Investors see two different projects depending on which layer they examine. The deeper they look, the less certainty they find. At this stage of the analysis, this is where ReneEnergy points viewers to H2 Hub. Not as a product pitch, but as a working environment where hydrogen projects are evaluated through physical system constraints alongside financial assumptions. It is a place to stress test access, utilization, and execution risk together, rather than assuming electricity behaves like a spreadsheet input. The uncomfortable truth is that grid access is now one of the primary gating factors for green hydrogen scale. Not electrolyzer cost, not renewable price. Access. And access is a slow variable. It changes at the speed of permitting, public hearings, rights of way, and steel in the ground. Hydrogen timelines that assume rapid grid evolution are not optimistic. They are detached. This has profound implications for national hydrogen strategies. Targets measured in gigawatts assume electrons can be routed freely. They assume hydrogen demand can materialize wherever renewables are built. They assume grids will adapt automatically. History suggests otherwise. Transmission expansion routinely lags generation by a decade or more. Hydrogen projects do not have that luxury. Developers who succeed will be those who design around access first. They will prioritize deliverability over theoretical abundance. They will accept slightly higher electricity prices in exchange for firm access. They will embed congestion risk into utilization assumptions from day one. They will treat grid position as a core asset, not a permitting footnote. For everyone else, the failure will not look dramatic. There will be no single catastrophic event. Instead, there will be delays, renegotiations, and quiet withdrawals. Press releases will stop. Websites will freeze. Equipment orders will be deferred. The project will still exist in databases long after it ceases to be real. Electricity existing but being inaccessible is not a niche problem. It is becoming the default condition in mature grids. Hydrogen exposes this reality faster than most technologies because it depends so heavily on sustained power flow. Where other loads can tolerate interruption, hydrogen cannot. It converts intermittency into cost with ruthless efficiency. And this is only the external side of the problem. Even when electricity finally reaches the plant, another set of losses begins. Power does not move frictionlessly through electrolyzers, compressors, dryers, and balance of plant systems. Efficiency ceilings emerge. Losses compound. What looks like a clean handoff from grid to hydrogen is anything but. That is where the next layer of system stress appears. Not in access, but in conversion. Not in wires, but in physics. Because even when electricity exists and even when hydrogen can access it, a large portion of that energy quietly disappears inside the system itself. That is what we will examine next.